The hidden work of Christ, a journey of inner transformation. Part 1, the work no one sees. There is a work that Christ does in a person that the world cannot see. It doesn't begin with outward change. It doesn't announce itself loudly. It doesn't try to prove anything. It begins quietly, beneath the surface, in the hidden places of the heart. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. Galatians 5:22-23. Most people spend their lives trying to change from the outside in adjusting behavior, correcting habits, trying to become something better. But the way of Christ moves differently. It begins within. And from there, everything else follows. Part 2, turning inward. At some point, something shifts. It may come through suffering. It may come through exhaustion, or through a quiet realization that outward effort is not enough. And a person begins to turn inward. Louis-Claude de Saint Martin described this as the inward path, a return to the place where God is already present. Not somewhere far away, not something to be reached externally, but something to be discovered within. Be still and know that I am God, Psalm 46:10. This turning is simple but not easy, because everything in us is used to looking outward. Part 3, learning stillness. When you begin to turn inward, the first thing you encounter is not peace. It's noise. Thoughts moving constantly, restlessness, distraction, and the instinct is to escape it. But if you stay, something begins to happen. Meister Eckhart taught that the soul must become empty, not hollow, but cleared of its constant grasping. Stillness is not about forcing silence. It's about no longer feeding the noise. And gradually, beneath the movement of thought, something quieter begins to emerge. My soul finds rest in God alone. My salvation comes from Him. Psalm 62:1. Part 4, letting go. As awareness deepens, you begin to notice how much you're holding onto. Control, identity, expectations, the need to feel secure. And letting go of these things doesn't happen all at once. It happens in layers. St. Francis of Assisi lived with a kind of inward freedom that came from releasing everything that weighed him down. Not just possessions, but self-importance, fear, and the need to grasp. The more you release, the lighter the soul becomes. Cast all your anxiety on Him because He cares for you. 1 Peter 5:7. Part 5, facing what's within. Turning inward eventually brings you face to face with what has been hidden. Old wounds, unresolved fear, patterns you didn't fully see before. This can feel unsettling, but this is where the real work begins. Jacob Burham understood that transformation happens when light enters into darkness, not when darkness is ignored. What you're seeing is not a problem. It's an invitation. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Psalm 139:23. Part 6, the work of transformation. As you remain present, something begins to change. Not because you're forcing it, not because you figured everything out, but because something deeper is at work. There is a quiet reshaping happening beneath the surface. Reactions begin to soften. Old patterns begin to loosen. What once felt overwhelming begins to lose its hold. This is not dramatic, but it is real. And we all who with unveiled faces contemplate the Lord's glory are being transformed into His image with ever-increasing glory, which comes from the Lord who is the Spirit. 2 Corinthians 3:18. Part 7, prayer becomes something else. Over time, prayer changes. It becomes less about speaking and more about being. Less about asking and more about resting. You begin to realize that you don't need to reach for God. You only need to stop moving away. And in that stillness, a kind of quiet connection begins to form. Not emotional, not forced, just present. Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. 1 Thessalonians 5, 16-18. Part 8, Growth Without Striving. One of the hardest things to accept is that transformation doesn't come through effort alone. It comes through allowing. Like a seed growing beneath the soil, the work is happening even when you don't see it. You are not forcing change. You are making space for it. And that requires patience. I planted the seed, Apollos watered it, but God has been making it grow. 1 Corinthians 3, 6. Part 9, the changes you don't notice. Over time, the changes begin to show. But often, you don't notice them right away. You respond differently. You think differently. You carry less weight. Things that once controlled you begin to fade. And you realize something has shifted, not suddenly, but gradually. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God. Romans 12, 2. Part 10, Living from Within. What begins inwardly doesn't stay there. It moves outward into how you live. Not through effort, but naturally. You become more present, more patient, more grounded. Not perfect, but real. Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Matthew 5, 16. Part 11, Staying with it. There is no final arrival point. No moment where everything is complete. There are seasons. Times where everything feels clear. And times where everything feels distant. But the path remains the same. Returning inward. Again and again. I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you. Psalm 32, 8. Part 12, The Invitation. Right now, nothing needs to be forced. Nothing needs to be figured out. Just become still. Turn inward. And allow Christ to meet you there. Because the deepest transformation is not something you achieve. It's something you allow. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for Him. Do not fret when people succeed in their ways. Psalm 37, 7. Be still and know. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this content, please consider liking and subscribing. Peace be with you.